punches her. And she's like, I send you a copy. Boom, bitch went down. This is when they go over to Tatum's house, and Tatum, she's looking kind of good here, sitting there with her bunny and her pigtails. Rose McGowan.
Always her hard nipples. Have you noticed throughout the whole movie her nipples are hard?
Not as hard as the last scene, that's for damn sure. Or her last scene. I mean, you could have cut glass with those things later on, but I mean, dude, she was pretty hot back in the day. I don't know what the fuck she did to her lips. Jesus Christ. She can't even talk now. You know what I'm saying? Like, she put so much collagen in her lips that she can't talk. It's fucking nasty. Anyway, so it's true, man. Like, if you see her in interviews now, she is disgusting. I don't know what she did. I mean, too much plastic surgery. But anyway, so she you know, they're sitting there and kind of laying there talking, and Tatum's asking Sid, you know, do you really think Billy did it? And she's like, he was there, Tatum. So, I mean, it looks like Billy's the killer until there's a phone call, and it's from the killer who tells her, looks like you got the wrong guy, Sydney, again. You know, poor Billy boyfriend. Of course, Sydney's freaking out because, you know, the killer's supposed to be in jail, but he's not. So it's not her boyfriend. She basically fingered the wrong guy again. So, like I said, the dude says, you're going to find out who I am, I promise, and hangs up. But one of the funniest parts is when Dewey comes into the room and he picks up the phone and he's like, hello? I don't know what the fuck's so funny
well,
about
again, that place, I'm sorry, and this is going to jump ahead a little, but to me, there are several instances in the movie like that where they're deliberately diverting attention and trying to make you think about who the killer is, because by that point, there's been a couple of instances with his character already where he seems like he's suspect.
Yeah, that's the thing, that Wes Craven was creating a lot of red herrings in this movie intentionally. They can't find Sidney's dad at this point. They've tried to find him at the airport he said he was at, not there, or the hotel. He's not there. They've tried to, Dewey, like I said, he is not in the room when they get the call, and they make sure that he's not in the room until after the phone is hung up. So there's lots of things that are like pointing to different people, and it's giving red herrings left and right. But obviously the main red herring right now is the dad. He disappeared. You know, the mom was murdered. Who killed the mom if not Cotton Weary? So there's a lot going on right now. And so the next day at school, you know, they've let Billy out of jail, which it's funny to me. Sid goes to school the next day. This is a fucking thing that is true in Nightmare on Elm Street, too. What is up with these chicks in these fucking Wes Craven movies? Well, okay. It's not just Wes Craven, but it was true in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, and this, and the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. All these chicks want to go to fucking school the next day. Freddy versus Jason. That's another one. What is up with them?
To be around people that are the same age group, to be around their peers, to feel like they're not alone and isolated. I get it. You know?
Nobody wants to go to school. Come on now.
Man, you know, the day after my granddad passed away, when I was like 9 or 10, that's immediately where I wanted to go, was because I had two best friends there, and all I did was I broke down in front of them and just cried my eyes out, man. It was traumatic, and it wasn't anything like murder, like any of this kind of stuff, but it just, I don't know, that I guess it just speaks to the innocence and like the warmth and humanity that, you know, Craven is trying to elicit from these kids, because he wants you to feel for these kids, not even sympathy, maybe just empathy, maybe be empathetic with them, you know?
Yeah.
And
you do get more character development here, too, from all the different characters, because, like I said, Tatum and Stu are kind of there with them, and, you know, Sidney's like, hey, have you talked to Billy? And Stu's like, after you label him the Candyman, he's heartbroken. So we get a nice Candyman reference there. There's a lot of horror movie references in this movie. Somebody's probably put together a list, and one of you guys can probably find that, but I guarantee there's a shit ton.
I put together a list years ago. It's Wes Carpenter.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Like some Wes Carpenter film.
And that's a portmanteau of, you know, Wes Craven and John Carpenter, who, again, Halloween. And it goes back to Kevin Williamson's love of the Halloween series, you know, because it's referenced in several other scenes in this movie, you know.
Yep. the town that dreaded sundown they reference, I spit on your grave or I spit on your garage. You know what I mean? There's so many. But anyway, so like I said, she's at school the next day, and, she talked to Tatum and Stu for a second. Sydney gets all upset because there's people running around in fucking Ghostface costumes in the school. And I want to say that wouldn't happen in real life, but you know what? I'm not that naive. People are fucking assholes, especially in, like, teenagers. They're dicks. This would happen. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
So these assholes are running around the school in Ghostface costumes, and she goes and talks to Billy, and he's like, this scene always makes me think of the scene from Stab in Scream 2.
Oh yeah, with yeah.
Stupid.
Toy Spelling and Wilson, yeah.
Yeah. Stupid. So anyway, Billy Loomis talks to Sydney, and like he pisses her off because he's like, "What? I got a girlfriend that would rather, this guy's so emo. I got a girlfriend that would rather label me a murder than touch me." And she gets pissed off. She runs into the bathroom, and like there's these girls calling her like a slut, and like she's hiding in the stall, and these girls are saying that maybe she's a slut just like her mom. And saying that she made it all up and shit. And
yeah,
like,
the bitch cheerleader is like that, but the other short-haired little girl with the 1990s haircut is actually saying, she watched her mom get butchered. Give her a break. And then she's like, "Where do you get this shit?" And of course, the other girl responds, "Ricky Lake," which is again 1990s tabloid television talk shows.
It's funny too because Wes Craven talked about how a lot of these movies, they try to make them timeless. But in this movie, they set it in its own time on purpose.
Yeah.
So,
yep. I agree.
So when she gets out of the stall after these bitches leave the bathroom, she starts hearing Sydney. She's like, "What the fuck?" She starts looking around. She can't find who's saying it. Finally, you see these boots touch the floor, kind of like off, like they were standing on a toilet, and they step down, and then you see the cloak come down. And then he goes chasing after her, and she runs out of the bathroom. It was Ghostface. But, Blake, I want to talk about this scene real quick, okay?
Okay, certainly.
I don't think this was either – well, we'll get to who the killers are later, but I don't think it was a killer. I think it was a classmate prank. I don't think – because he didn't have a knife, for one thing. And I think we saw the others earlier, and I don't think he was in the bathroom with them. And I think, because you've got people in costume here, I don't think this was a serious threat on her life. I think it was classmates fucking around with her. I mean, there's no way to prove it, but that's what I think. What do you think?
Well, I think, and this is going to sound goofy, but I've only seen this movie, 100 fucking times at least.
Yeah, I've seen it 100 times over the last 3 days.
I watched it once day before yesterday and once about 3 hours before I messaged you earlier. So, I watched it today. But the sound he makes is the same sound that the bumbling asshole killer makes in front of Casey and when he attacks Sydney initially the first time. It's that almost like a fucking water boy type
You are
sound.
right. You're right. Yeah, like when he gets kicked by Casey, he makes that exact sound.
And I think that is the killer, but again, I don't want to give too much away yet, just in case there is a chance that somebody is listening and has.
Yeah, we'll give it away. We'll give it away.
Henry Winkler.
We'll give it away. Yes. Yes, Henry Winkler. He's the other red herring in this movie. And where the fuck? Why have I not talked about this? Those two that were running around and scream, in the Ghostface masks. They're basically in the principal's office, and Henry Winkler's telling them that, their whole whoring generation, you're both expelled. Basically, he's being really threatening with this pair of scissors with them as he's cutting these masks up. So we get another red herring here with, or is he the killer, with the principal? And, he's basically saying, you're both expelled, get out. And they're like, that's not fair, principal, whatever the fuck his name is.
Henry,
Principal Henry. Henry, I wanted to say him something. And he was like, fair would be for me to rip your guts open, expose you for the heartless little shits that you are. And he's like, get out. So basically, this guy looks crazy. Also, he was perving on Sydney earlier.
I was about to say he touched her chin, and the way the sheriff looked at him like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. They mentioned that in the commentary, too, so that was not by accident.
Yeah. I wanted to mention, while we're on the subject of the sheriff, he should look familiar to you. He is Sergeant Parker in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. He was sort of like the deputy in Nightmare on Elm Street to John Saxon's character.
I'll be goddamn. I didn't realize that.
Yes, sir. I'm the man for this kind of thing. I'm telling you, man. Horror is my life, bro.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Usually I can pick up on shit like that. I need to go back and watch it again, apparently.
His name is Joseph Whipp, and he does some of the conventions. I think he just did like a Scarefest or Days of the Dead, like year before last. They had like a Scream kind of reunion with Matthew Lillard and, a couple of the others, but he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, now what's going on is we've got school is over. We've got a curfew in place because apparently Sid was attacked in school, so that's a good reason to fucking, cancel school, put a curfew in place, and Tatum's going to throw a party, Stu's going to throw a party, have Tatum over and everybody. Tatum convinces Sid to go, and Gail Weathers actually takes a cameraman to the party in an attempt to, talk to Sydney, but of course Dewey intercepts her, which we're going to get to. During all of this, Sydney and Casey go to a store. Not Sydney and Casey. Sydney and Tatum go to a store, like a convenience store, and in the background you see Ghostface again. Now, this is one of the problems with the movie. What fucking sense does it make that Ghostface is running around in costume during the day? See, this is another one where I'm like, I think this is somebody fucking with them.
I don't know. That one might have been, but I kind of like to look at it like he's given the killer kind of like a supernatural presence about it, even though they aren't supernatural, because you got people running around the school in broad daylight with all that shit on. But what a perfect cover, because then if somebody was to stop him, they'd think he was just one of those asshole kids she goes to school with that's fucking with her. But I think that was him too, just because the way he was like casing them, the way he does the quick turns and looks at the camera, and I think that was meant to really be him.
I should note that before they go to the store, Principal Henry, he is in there trying on the Ghostface mask, which is just fucking stupid. And this is when you realize he's definitely not the killer. He's a goof, just like Stu, just like a couple of the others. This guy's a goof. Anyway, so somebody keeps knocking on his fucking door and running off, and he tries to figure out who it is, and he says, "You little shit," and he says it to Wes Craven in a Freddy Krueger outfit, who's the janitor in this movie, which is just fucking cool.
Yeah, and that was actually, did some research. He actually was wearing the exact Scream sweater and hat. Yep, that Robert wore with the solid red sleeves from the first film, because remember the first one was the good one, the rest of them sucked. And that's kind of a connection there,
Yeah, he said, "Not you, Fred." That's what made it even funnier. He's like, "Not you, Fred." And, the principal goes back into his office. Ghostface was hiding behind the door, and he stabs the shit out of Principal Henry. And I have to tell you, this is probably one of the worst kills I've ever seen in my life, at least in terms of acting. He was awful. He's like, it was fucking, props to Henry Winkler for wanting to do the movie, but his death scene was awful. It was terrible, except for the part where he's laying there and you can see Ghost. Yes, that's more just the director, though, being awesome.
Right. Yeah, and the cinematography, the photography and, the cameraman and all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, that was a good shot, but his screams, they were just bad, and I think the reason they were supposed to be bad was because I think that was like a commentary Wes was making. It's like all these screams sound the same in a horror movie, It
also gives you the idea that those two kids that were expelled are now red herrings as well. Because, why are they killing the principal, right? It just seems random.
Right. He fucking expelled them. Well, fuck the principal. Let's kill that motherfucker. That's what, that's what people were thinking. There's a lot of red herrings. There's one, I think, that's happened by this point that we haven't talked about, the sheriff, because they pan down after he got the cigarette. And the boots are the same kind of boots. So you never really see Dewey's boots, but you see the sheriff. So again, you've got like 4 or 5 red herrings going on, and you really don't know who the fuck is the killer because all of them at that point could be suspect. And that's something that I think breaking the fourth wall